it looks lovely, and a bit of shower as well to break up the heat. Now, mountain rescue teams are bracing themselves for another busy day today, but apparently it's not just the good weather luring us to the great outdoors. Social media is also part of the problem. Rescue teams in Eryri, also known as Snowdonia, say stunning photographs posted online encourage even more people to trek into remote areas, often without knowing the right gear to take. George Hurd has the story.
It may be a little overcast, but the car park here at Ogwen Cottage in the Eryri National Park is already full, and walkers are heading out onto the hills in their droves. From here, it's a short walk to the relative safety of Cwm Idwal. However, it could also lead you to the technically challenging climbs onto the 3,000-foot Tryfan.
With stunning views like this, it's no surprise it attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors a year here to Eryri. But are people thinking enough about mountain safety when they head out on the hills?
This is our operational area. You can see we come from Colwyn Bay all the way down here to Pentravoilus.
According to the Ogwen Valley Mountain Rescue Teams, the answer all too often is no. Tryfan alone accounts for nearly 1 in 3 call-outs, often novice walkers whose only experience is watching videos on Instagram or TikTok.
Things have changed. I think certainly all mountain rescue teams noticed a big difference since lockdown, and I think one of the things is social media. People are doing podcasts, other people are seeing the podcasts and getting the idea that they can go up there, but they haven't seen how that original filmer of the podcast was equipped and haven't seen how experienced he was. And we're getting a number of people who are going up, getting into difficulties because they aren't suitably equipped or experienced.
So what do some of those heading out onto the hills think?
We've seen people equipped today in wearing Birkenstocks and trying to climb, pretty big heights. And not only is their feet going to be cold, but they're, it's just not suitable.
Be careful and not doing stupid things by trying to play the hero or something. But I think everything's relatively safe here, so I don't see any problems.
It's probably more education you need, so that before people approach the mountains, maybe there should be some way of them knowing how to assess what they're capable of.
And that role of educating visitors is being taken up by Adventure Smart, a body championing safe outdoor activities.
Everybody has caught the outdoor adventure bug, I think. Post-COVID, people have discovered that the outdoors is good for their well-being, but they're not doing it with any real understanding, or many of them don't have an understanding of the risks involved and the fact that they could take a few simple actions which would help them mitigate those risks, have a far more enjoyable day, and actually not have to call our mountain rescue teams out.
The message from mountain rescue teams and Adventure Smart is simple: do some planning, come prepared for the weather, and finally, do enjoy the mountains safely.
Well, Alan Hinks is an ambassador for Mountain Rescue England and Wales and part of the Adventure Smart campaign that we've just been hearing about. He joins us now. Let's start with the positives. Since lockdown, loads more of us are getting out and about and enjoying the great outdoors that's on our doorstep. And that's a good thing, isn't it?
It is. It's brilliant. Luckily, we finished here at 8 o'clock. I'm going outdoors back to the Lake District as well.
Whereabouts are you off to?
Up to the North Lakes,
Okay.
sort of around the Keswick type area, yeah, going out on the fells, one of my favourite areas. Although I'm a Yorkshireman, I do like Cumbria, the Lake District.
That's allowed, Alan.
Yeah.
That is allowed. And you will be well prepped. I mean, it feels very basic, but talk us through some of the fundamentals that people are overlooking.
Yeah, well, this Adventure Smart thing that we've been going on about is brilliant. Have you got the knowledge? I check the weather. Hopefully, I think the weather's OK today. And have you got the right gear? I mean, we're talking about social media as well. These things are useful. You can find things on it. You can download great maps from the Ordnance Survey on them as well. Although it's better to have perhaps a proper map. I've got a proper map in here,
Okay.
If you can, one of these. Look, I've got a Manchester one, and actually I've got the Yorkshire Dales one rather than the Lake District one. It is useful if you can map read. It's a great skill. I would recommend people learning to map read, but I don't want to be too prescriptive. When it's weather like it is at the moment, it's so nice to go for a bimble in the hills. And you don't need a huge rucksack like this. I've got a fleece in. You probably don't need that today. It's going to be warm, but you probably need something like this, a lightweight, waterproof, breathable sort of thing. That would be useful. Obviously, take some water, bit of food, have some reasonable footwear. Again, I don't think you need boots. You know, you can have something like what I've got on, a nice pair of, you know, trekking shoes, you know, approach shoes we call them, even a decent pair of
And they can be
trainers.
really expensive, though. So do you think you have to spend a fortune on the correct shoes, the correct cagoule?
Depends where you're going. If you're sticking to paths, you know, a good pair of approach shoes, training shoes, fell runners, running training shoes,
Yeah.
you know. Not fashion shoes, not fashion trainers, should I say, but there's plenty of good footwear on the market now. You don't need a great heavyweight pair of boots unless you're going out perhaps when the weather's more inclement in winter and you're going off the paths where it's more rocky, you know. One thing that is useful, I should show you, is this is a big one. You can get one about that small. This is an 8-man, what we call an emergency shelter. So it's just essentially a nylon bag to put over it. And this is a group one that will get 8 or 10 in because I work as an instructor. But you can get small ones about that big that will do for 2 of you. And this is what is a lifesaver, these things.
So would you take that on every walk, even in the Yorkshire Dales, in the North
If
Lakes?
I was with a group, I would.
Right,
but I have to admit, if I'm on my own, no. Maybe if I'm on my own, weather like today, I might just have one of these.
And what's that?
A little, well, we actually call them bum bags, believe it or not.
Okay.
You know, just a little bag, you know, that you wrap. And I might put some water in that, and I might tie this waterproof jacket around my waist and go off. You know, if you've checked the weather, then, you know, you can take, I shouldn't say take a risk, we shouldn't take risks, but, you know, you don't have to be prescriptive and say we always need a huge rucksack full of kit. You just need to know your limits, really.
And that is it, isn't it? It's knowing your limits and being aware that circumstances can, you know, a warning that circumstances can change very quickly. What can be the consequence of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, nowadays you can call a mountain rescue team out if you've got a phone signal, and obviously that puts pressure on the mountain rescue team. And you know, we're all volunteers, mountain rescue personnel, and we, you know, I'm tempted to say we're happy to come out. We're prepared, and generally we are quite happy to come out for anybody. We're not going to be judgmental. We're not going to say we shouldn't go out for that person because they've been silly or that person's having a genuine accident. You know, we'll come out for anyone, really. But it is nice if we don't have too much pressure put on the teams, because if they're coming out for someone who's been silly, and then it means we can't go out for a serious accident because we're out doing something else, you know.
And funding is that perpetual issue, isn't it, for mountain rescue? And we were hearing in that report from Wales around social media and the impact that that's having, people almost being competitive about wanting to get the correct photo. What would you say about that?
You do see that when I'm walking around in the hills. I see people with their phones like that, and they ask me, you know, where they can go to do this. Funnily enough, it's not always mountains now. They might want to go swimming somewhere in a certain mini lake, which we call tarns. And so a lot of mountain rescue is water rescue now. Paddleboarders as well on the big lakes in the Lake District. Paddleboarders who are not that experienced and they get blown away if it's windy. So, interestingly, a lot of mountain rescues are actually water rescues as well in the Lake District.
That does make sense, lots of outdoor swimming.
And obviously people see on social media, I want to paddleboard this lake or paddleboard this tarn or swim this tarn, so-called wild swimming. It's not wild. People have been swimming in the lakes.
It's just swimming.
Forever. But now we call it wild swimming.
Well, a really important warning there, to enjoy the great outdoors, but be prepared, look ahead. Finally, and possibly most crucially, what will be your sandwich of choice when you head up to the lakes today?
Pork pie.
Oh, lovely! With any kind of pickle accompaniment?
Not really. I often take a boiled egg as well. But I do like, you know, avocado and cheese sandwiches if I can be bothered to make one. But you can't beat a real pork pie.
You might get soggy bread, though, with avocado, mightn't you? That's the risk. Pork pie stays solid.
Yeah. I like some proper food. But I do take some of the, you know, the specialist things now and again if I'm going on a long walk, stroke hike.
It's what gets you through, isn't it, if it's bad weather. Thank you very much. Some really good advice there, and also important to just remember to enjoy it, because it's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, and wear a hat if it's sunny.
Yes.
If you've got a head like mine.
Get your sunscreen on. Alan, thank you very much. That is Alan Hinks, who is Ambassador of the Mountain Rescue England and Wales, and works on that Adventure Smart campaign. It is 28 minutes past 7. Now, we've all seen the number of high street